Welcome to the Customer Wins podcast, where business leaders discuss their secrets and techniques for helping their customers succeed and in turn grow their business.
Hi, I'm Rich Walker, the host of the Customer Wins, where I talk to business leaders about how they help their customers win and how their focus on customer experience leads to growth. Some of my past guests have included Joshua B. Lee of Standout Authority, Jeffrey Rusin of Advisor Tech Partners, and Parker Entz of Jump. Today, I'm speaking with Paul Osterberg of Security Basecamp. And today's episode is brought to you by Quick, the leader in enterprise forms processing. When your business relies upon processing forms, don't waste your team's valuable time manually reviewing the forms. Instead, get Quick. Using our Form Extract API, simply submit your completed forms and get back clean, context-rich data that reduces manual reviews to only 1 out of 1,000 submissions. Visit quickforms.com to get started. Now, before I introduce today's guest, I want to give a big thank you to Jeff Reese, one of the first true supporters of Quick way back in 2004, and who was instrumental in helping us go to the next level in our company's evolution. And he introduced me to Paul. Paul Osterberg, Managing Director of Security Basecamp, exemplifies a commitment to safeguarding critical financial data and systems in a rapidly evolving digital landscape. Over the past decade, Paul has dedicated more than 20,000 hours to defending the integrity of diverse financial service firms as a fractional Chief Information Security Officer, or virtual CISO, to multiple financial service organizations. Paul, welcome to the Customer Wins.
Hey, Rich. Thanks for having me.
And I'm so excited to talk to you today. If you haven't heard this podcast before, I talk with business leaders about what they're doing to help their customers win, how they built and deliver a great customer experience, and the challenges to growing their own company. So, Paul, I want to understand your business a bit better. How does your company help people?
Well, all focused on cybersecurity. A lot of times we meet people in moments of fear. So reducing fear as it relates to maybe helping somebody with a breach or an incident. The number one way we help people is thinking through, where are my risks? What threats and vulnerabilities does my organization have, and how do I address them?
So you're not just, hey, I've got a software product. You're actually going in and working with the organization one-on-one?
Yeah, the primary element of our business is service-oriented. We do have software under development, and we'll hear about that more in the future.
Okay. So what is it you actually do? I mean, are you actually doing active scans on their systems? Are you helping them make management decisions? What does your role entail?
Yeah. So it kind of depends upon the service that the organization has purchased. So if they've purchased the fractional CISO service, we're a senior leader on a part-time basis in the cybersecurity function in a company. The number one way companies start or engage with us is something called a risk assessment. So that involves taking people through a questionnaire, helping them understand what controls they do have in place and whether or not they are compliant with regulation. Yes, we do scanning as well. We call that electronic truth. It's kind of like drawing blood. When you go to your annual physical, risk assessment really is similar to an annual physical from a doctor perspective. We're just doing it as it relates to cybersecurity and not your human health.
Okay, a lot of people hate getting that annual review because they're just totally afraid of what they're going to find out.
Right.
So are your clients afraid of what they're going to find out?
Yes and no. I do think some clients shy away from going through the process because sometimes it's like I'm being graded, right? You're going to give me an A, B, or a C, and I want an A. So we tend to kind of have a private conversation as it relates to the first draft of a risk assessment with the owner, probably the person that's going to feel most graded. And then that's kind of an in-progress draft. Then we work with the organization to help them remediate those deficiencies, and then we give them the A. So we want to make sure that we end up with healthy clients. 95% of our risk assessment clients end up coming back to do another one, either a year or two later, and again and again and again. And some of them hire us as fractional CISOs.
Okay. how many of your customers are, maybe I should say it differently. I don't mean the actual number.
Yeah.
Like, are the majority of your customers financial service oriented, like wealth management firms, or are they fintechs, or are they something else?
Yeah. The majority are in the financial services industry, either as independent broker dealers, mutual fund companies, insurance companies, financial services companies. We do then do work with fintechs as well, because another service we offer is the vendor due diligence process and the application penetration testing process. So that allows us to bump into and work with fintech companies as well. And we do some business away from financial services as well, because cybersecurity applies to anybody.
Yeah. Is there, there's this inkling of a question I have, which
Yeah.
is, I don't know if it's a fair one, but is there something that is really, really common that everybody is missing when they call you? Like, is there like this, do you always see this happen type of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. There are 5 to 7 key controls that just need to be in place that really help to kind of make you faster than the slowest bear. So a common issue we see with financial advisors would be not using complex passwords to access or anything over the internet. Reusing passwords, not using multi-factor authentication. So as it relates to a breach or an incident, I mean, it's really kind of basic. Somebody ends up signing into somebody's email account and just reading their emails for some period of time. And that is the number one way then we see fraud happen, because somebody, a bad actor, will be pretending to be a financial advisor or one of their clients, and then send in money for a money movement transaction or a withdrawal. So that is probably the most common thing we see.
Okay, I want to dispel what I think might be a myth.
Okay.
When you say somebody's logging into somebody's email, is it really a human, or is it bots and AI now? I mean, are there some guy sitting at a computer, got your password, and go look at your email and read it, or is it automated?
Well, I have not bumped into a situation yet where there's evidence that it was automated. I'm certain of the fact that automation will make and is making hacking easier. I mean, there are examples out there on the internet, for example, like it might be just automation to take a CVE or a vulnerability associated with software. I know Quick has no CVEs, right? But
Oh, sure,
we
yeah.
common vulnerabilities. These vulnerabilities about software are published on the open internet for bad actors or good people to know. So I can go look up for common types of software like Adobe or WordPress. What are the vulnerabilities associated with them? I can then take those vulnerabilities and then plug them into some application like Metasploit, which is used to attack an organization or to do what we call red teaming. So both good and bad actors can be using a tool like Metasploit, which will take known vulnerabilities and allow me an exploit or a series of them that I can use to penetrate a network or a piece of software. So automation does play a role, but it is almost always the incidents or the breaches that we help manage are almost always perpetuated by a human, I believe.
Yeah. I don't know that everybody understands when you talk about the CVEs.
Yeah.
For example, if you have a Windows server, and I used to manage this a decade ago,
Yeah.
you would run a report in Windows Update and it would say, oh, here's all your vulnerabilities. And it would show you line by line what they are. Do you want to apply this security update and this one and this one and this one?
Yes.
Thankfully, Quick is SOC 2 audited. And it seems like every single year, there are more jumps we have to go over. There's more parameters we have to cover.
Yeah.
So, and we do our vulnerability tests and our penetration tests, and we find these things. There's always something. It's crazy. This is a nonstop business.
It is. So, I mean, you asked like the most common thing we see, and it would be credential reuse, the lack of multi-factor authentication. The third thing would be lack of patching, right? So running those scans that show you where am I vulnerable, and then making a decision about what I'm going to patch. And in not all cases can you patch something. You might have a piece of software. We're working with an agronomy company right now that has software in grain elevators and other places like that. some things just can't be patched as easily. So the Windows 10 update that has many people kind of freaking out, the Windows movement away, end of life for Windows 10, I should say. A lot of people need to get off Windows 10, but in some cases, there's software they're running that can't move to a newer operating system.
Right.
So we might need to take some other, set of steps to secure something that can't not be fully made secure, like network segmentation. I don't want to get too geeky.
No, and I don't mean to. Audience. Yeah, I don't mean to. I have two different paths I want to take with you. So first, let's talk about artificial intelligence a little bit more.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you see AI posing a deeper threat in the security and the cybersecurity, hacks and attacks that are happening?
Yes and no. To the extent that there's a small to medium-sized business that is probably not leveraging AI or is not working with partners that are effectively using AI, in those cases, if the defenders are not properly leveraging AI or other concepts like zero trust, then I would think that bad actors will have a leg up in using artificial intelligence. I think everybody should be playing with and be intentional about how we are using AI and what risks it might expose us to.
Do you see anybody trying to do your job with AI?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm a knowledge worker, right? A lot of what I do is helping people understand what risks do I face and how do I address them. I use, things like ChatGPT, Grok, other tools like at AWS, Nova, etc., on a daily basis. And to the extent that I'm not, I'm likely to become, for sure, much less effective for my clients or at some point a dinosaur.
Yeah. But do you think people are trying to not hire you because they can just use AI to answer that question?
No, this year, even though there's been some choppiness in the economy, we've grown more than we have in past years. I have a relatively small team, but we are intentionally growing the firm. We showed up on the Schwab platform. We're doing a lot of work with the NSCP, other platforms. So I haven't noticed. We're getting more customers, not less. So
yeah,
but I'm sure some people are leveraging AI to do things like a vendor risk assessment that I could do for them.
Yeah.
How about you? How have you seen it impact your business?
Oh, I embraced it from day one. I've been looking at this as an enabler for our business. So I don't have a scarcity mentality at all.
No.
But I'll look at it from another perspective. We hire professionals like lawyers and other people to do various things in our company. Yep. Lawyers is a good example because it's an expensive hourly rate.
Yeah.
And if I can have ChatGPT give me a lawyerly-like opinion of something, that might save me an hour of work with that lawyer, not to mention the time it takes for them to turn it around. Yeah. And so I'm willing to do that. But am I willing to fire my attorney and not use them at all? Oh, God, no. I still need their help. And it's just I want them on sophisticated things, not trivial things.
Amen. Yes. Amen. Yeah. And I do think that has implications for how are younger knowledge workers going to get trained when a lot of maybe the things that they were doing, like a new attorney, right? The things, a legal brief, I can draft that as well, and complement it with other tools already available on the internet. So are we going to miss this opportunity of growing those sophisticated knowledge workers? Probably not. It'll just somehow change. We are just adaptive creatures.
No, it is. It's a bunch of tools. I still think back to the 90s when Microsoft Excel and Word was starting to take root. Yeah. And if you were still in Lotus and WordPerfect and you didn't migrate, you missed out.
Yeah.
And it was just a different tool set and it enabled different things that you could now do. So I think of AI a lot like that. It's a tool set. All right, let me ask you a totally different line of questions. I know I've known you. The reason I know you from Jeff Reese is because you and Jeff were both working at NFP Security as one of our earliest customers. Yeah. So I've run into you so many times, known you for a super long time. I know you're a
Yeah.
father. So I'm going to ask you, I'm a father too. I want to ask you a very different line of questions I normally ask. Okay, but given your business background in cyber, how did you teach your kids to navigate this cyber world and secure them against the threats of online as they were going through their teenage years and growing up?
Yeah. Well, a little bit less so than you'd probably think. I mean, making sure that they kept their phones up to date and patched. Um, discussions of using multi-factor authentication. But I think it was more just about good human behavior rather than a focus on cybersecurity. More, are you thinking through, complex issues? How are you learning to think, right? And how are you learning to develop habits that involve questioning or goal-oriented thinking. So I don't know, probably a little bit less as it relates to cybersecurity than you would think.
But isn't cybersecurity about human behavior anyway? Yeah, I mean, there's the technical breach aspects, but I mean, I really think of the world in human behavior terms more than anything else.
Yeah. Some of the best partners I work with, Aaron Spradlin's a perfect example at United Planners. He is always kind of thinking kind of deeply about technology oriented issues. And he and I have, worked together for a long period of time. And one of the first things Aaron really focused on, even though he's very technical, was culture and human oriented kind of the human side of cybersecurity. Are we training people to, a really trivial example, but very important one would be not click, think before you click kind of thing. Are we training people to, gosh, this is out of the normal, even things like slower computers or rebooting my computer on a weekly basis, questioning, reporting something to the cybersecurity experts. I'm just not sure. Let me check with Paul and team. Prioritizing risks. We don't have to necessarily address everything, but from a human perspective, from a business perspective, what are the right risks for us to mitigate? But yeah, so having processes that train people to be wise. A little wordy there, sorry.
No, but in a lot of ways, it comes down to being street smart.
Yeah,
because like you said, think before you click. Oh my gosh, every day somebody's trying to pay me money. There's a remittance. Go click this PDF and you'll get paid type of stuff. No, don't do it. But I think, as we grow as humans and evolve, we're always learning as we go. And I mean, that's why I brought back to the kids perspective, because you're trying to train human behavior in your own kids, but in your profession, you're trying to train human behavior at the same time. And that's what I was thinking about, the corollary of the two.
Yeah, and trust but verify. I work in and around bad actors or thinking about how somebody might try to steal information or money from me, and I do need to kind of constantly challenge myself to, the human is, by and large, most humans are great people, right? We want to serve other people. We want to make a difference in the lives of other people. And the bad actors represent kind of a small percentage of folks, so I didn't want my kids, they're now young adults, to kind of grow up thinking that we just can't trust anybody. We can trust most everybody, but be a bit wise.
Yeah. All right, going back to I was thinking about this with your business.
Yeah.
I lost my train of thought, to be honest.
Well, yeah, I mean, we met 20 years ago. Gosh, it's just about 20 years ago. I left NFP to really focus on raising my kids, and all of a sudden started working on, over the internet for over two decades. I mean, the pandemic was actually a little bit of a gift to me from a business perspective, in that, people became very comfortable just working just like we are talking today.
Yeah.
I'm sitting out in central Minnesota, and you are in.
I'm in Austin, where we met.
Yeah. Great
I
town.
moved to where you used to be.
Yeah, love that place. Yeah.
I know what I was going to ask. I appreciate this because the train of thought was, should people have a safe word these days? Because AI is mimicking voice and spoofing phone numbers and, trying to behave like your sister who's in trouble and
Yep.
send money, that type of stuff. Do you advocate for that kind of idea?
I do. Yeah, absolutely. And, something that scares me a bit is just, AI's ability to create very realistic videos, or AI to literally create you, and we have this conversation now. It's a pretty long conversation, so it'd be difficult, but there are examples where a CFO or a CEO was spoofed. Their human form was literally
The
spoofed
deepfake.
and talking to somebody that could authorize the transfer of $25 million in Hong Kong, right? And this is a true actual example where AI was used to create a Rich Walker to talk to a Paul Osterberg, and trick the person into thinking it was the CFO. So those sorts of things, and the ability, especially in kind of this time, where there's a lot of endorphin creating actions taking place over the internet to influence people. It freaks me out a little bit to think about the necessity for having a safe word that you would use to prove to me that you are Rich Walker. That would be the use of a safe word.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. So, talking about that kind of totally negative outcome, losing $25 million or something because of a spoofed actor.
Yeah.
I want you to kind of talk about, what does a bad experience that a company has with a breach mean to their customers? What is the bad experience to the customer then?
Yeah. Well, so a lot of the cybersecurity industry tends to sell or market, talk about the extremes. So I want to be cautious of that. But, some examples could include, ransomware is one of the worst types of attack that a company can experience. So imagine hospital systems where ransomware locks up all of their equipment and it makes it difficult for them to serve their clients, or literally even potentially save their clients. There are examples of hospital systems being hit by ransomware. In the financial services industry, imagine you're a financial advisor that loses access to your, let's say you have 25 people working in your advisory practice, and you lose access to all of your devices and all of the systems you use to serve clients for a period of 11 days. What impact would that have on your business interruption, right? Not being able to serve them. Typically in this independent financial advice space, we have redundant systems across many companies. I might custody my assets at Schwab and Fidelity or Pershing. So that serves as kind of a second layer of defense in some cases. But it's kind of important to not have it's important to make sure you have good backups so that you can restore all your systems within a short period of time.
Have you seen advisors lose clients over, I don't know, a data breach where the client's data was accessed? I mean, minimal?
I have, going back to the most common example, right? Not making sure that it is difficult for somebody else to get into your email system, right?
Yeah.
So this is, I would say, 50% of the breaches that I see start there. And I've seen numerous financial advisors lose clients where money was transferred out of an account at company X or custodian Y. And I mean, that's a terrible discussion to be having with your client. The money is typically refunded, but oh my God, you're telling me via your my relationship with you, money was taken out of one of my accounts. I've seen that over and over again.
How do you overcome that trust loss?
Yeah, it is a lot about trust. And really, the cool thing is that it doesn't take a whole lot of work to put the most primary defenses in place to prevent those sorts of things. But not all cases can we prevent them, so we buy some insurance.
Yeah. I know a lot of what you're trying to do is, secure the hatches, loss prevention, risk mitigation, et cetera. But from a consumer standpoint, like me as a consumer, you as a consumer, It seems like our data has been accessed over and over and over again by all the big companies. I don't want to name names, but we've heard them all in the news over years. Do I have to care anymore? I mean, does it matter that somebody has my social?
I mean, there is some truth to that, right? It's kind of like I remember a pastor at church told me once, that don't worry about it. I mean, people are going to learn some of our private, confidential information, and that's just the world we live in. But when you have a child that goes off to college and their identity has been stolen, and in some way, shape, or form, they might have been harmed or an account opened in their name. Um, I mean, we can prevent these things.
When I was in college a long time ago in the 90s, and I was working at Payne Weber stock brokerage, and I'd been there, I don't know, 4 or 5 months. I got a phone call passed to me. I'm like, who knows that I even work here, number one.
Yeah.
And it was American Express. And they were asking me how I'm going to pay my bill. And I'm like, you got the wrong guy. And they verified my social, my date of birth. And then I said, what's my address? And they gave a different address. So it was totally fraud. But I was so shocked that back in that day, they were able to figure out where I worked and contact me. I had no cell phone. It was bizarre. But I mean, I had my identity stolen way back then before most of the cybersecurity stuff was going on.
That reminds me of some of the conversations we used to have 20 years ago about how your business was born. I mean, I think that's an interesting story, Rich. You've always had this mindset of, hey, there's a problem to be solved, and you were working at Payne Weber and then elsewhere, I think another, and then you created this quick forms to solve a lot of industry problems. If you'd have taken the bait on that American Express thing, maybe you'd have become a cybersecurity consultant 20 years ago.
You never know. You never know. I know it's funny how my path has meandered. I've always been an entrepreneur, but for me, it's about solving a problem. That's what I love to do, is solve problems for people. And I solved it for myself, and everybody wanted it, so there was that. But it's the cybersecurity world is not as interesting to me personally, because it is just, well, first of all, it's vast. And I part of the challenge, and this is part of what the conversation about is for me, is you're saying to a customer, I want to put you in a position to never have the loss, which is awesome. What's the value of that? Because until you've had the loss, you don't know the value.
Yeah, what's the value of maintaining trust? Or, what's the value of maintaining data integrity? Like making sure that our data can't be spoofed, changed. We want to seek the truth. So it's a lot about allowing a person to make decisions to keep private what they want to keep private. If you give me confidential information, I want to maintain your trust. I mean, so it comes back to those human things again. Trust. I have faith in you. I feel secure working with you. I want my future to be secure. So some of these, it's just a different business function as it relates to important human elements.
This is what I love about it. At the end of the day, you have a function that is dealing with human emotion. I mean, honestly, that's what you're coming back to.
It's true.
Trust and bonds that we have with the companies that we entrust money and information and our kids, anything with, right? So that trust is a human thing, and you can't just put a finite value on that, because when it's lost, it's lost. You've lost the customer. Like, there is no part way there when you've lost it.
Yeah, and it's about the employees too. I can think of cases or clients we've gotten through ransomware events, and you're dealing with a technology leader that their career was about making sure that their systems operated, that their systems came up in the morning when they were supposed to, and just that feeling in your heart. It's like, oh my God, my systems are unavailable now. That thousands of other employees in my company are looking at me and saying, well, what did you do wrong? So it's kind of like, hey, let's give that person a way to make sure that in that no good moment, how they recover.
Yeah,
Prepare
so
them
I feel
proactively.
So I feel like one of the corollaries between our businesses is that when it goes wrong, it goes really wrong. Like, customers really feel it. When it goes right, that's just the way it should be. Like, it just should go right. So nobody cares. Like, they're not singing your praises because it went right. It's just, yeah, it worked. Like, I joked, nobody cares what brand form they used, just like you don't care what brand pencil you use.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, chief compliance officers can relate to that comment. Chief technology officers can relate to that comment. Obviously, CEOs. Nobody wants to be in the news. And most of us, kind of feel protected by obfuscation. There's just so many different people that might be attacked. I'll never be attacked, and I'll never be that person in the news.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and that's easy. It's easy to say that when you haven't had it happen to you. I never have identity stolen from me. Do you know how they did it, by the way? They somehow got my social from financial aid at school. And all they did is they filled out a paper application for the American Express card and sent it to a fraternity address. The fraternities had open mailboxes, so anybody could find, if you didn't get your mail, you put it on top for somebody else to get. So they just go scan it and pull it. And then they didn't have to live there or anything. It was so trivial and simple how they did it.
Yeah, it is. And Kevin Mitnick, he's passed away now, but it was kind of known as one of the world's greatest hackers. A lot of his hacks were based on physical oriented things like dumpster diving or getting into companies as a janitor or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, so that tells you that the movies are real. All right. So we'll have to wrap this up, and I do have another question for you. But before we go there, what's the best way for people to find and connect with you?
Yeah, reach out, look at our website, securitybasecamp.com, search for Paul Osterberg on LinkedIn, and come see us at conferences, the NSCP or Schwab or, Smart Growth Conference. We're going to that in Ohio, not too long from now. Yeah, securitybasecamp.com.
Nice. Awesome. All right. So here's my last question. And it's always one of my favorites. So who has had the biggest impact on your leadership style and how you approach your role today?
Yeah. Well, it isn't just one person. Early in life, clearly my parents. I was also involved in numerous organizations growing up, leadership roles, even the Future Farmers of America. I never intended to be a farmer, but it was one of the best leadership organizations I'd ever been in. Did a lot of public speaking in high school. But long story short, then once I got into the career world, it was a series of people at Deloitte and Touche. I was a consultant at Deloitte. Pat Beckdahl was my managing director there. And I ended up on an engagement at an ING broker-dealer, and I met this young CEO named Jeff Montgomery. And then, we were both in our 30s, and so that partner, Pat Beckdahl at Deloitte, and then Jeff, who I followed to Austin, Texas at NFP Securities to run technology, and ultimately was offered the chief operating officer's role. But Jeff had a big impact on my career.
Yeah, I remember Jeff. I didn't know him well, but that's awesome. And obviously enough to make you follow him. That's great.
Yep.
Oh man. All right. So I want to give a huge thank you to Paul Osterberg, Managing Director of Security Basecamp, for being on this episode of The Customer Wins. Go check out Paul's website at securitybasecamp.com. And don't forget to check out Quick at quickforms.com, where we make processing forms easier. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. We'll click the like button, share this with someone, and subscribe to our channels for future episodes of The Customer Wins. Paul, I'm so glad to have you on today. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Rich. I really appreciated it. It's good to catch up, too, after a couple decades. And, we see each other throughout the years. But thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Customer Wins podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.